Fight Capital, where we step into the ring of combat sports business. I'm your host, Ryan Rappaport. Today, I'm excited to have Curt Pyke, the freelance director, producer, videographer, editor, and the creative force behind Curly Top. Curt specializes in documentary, branded content, promotional editing, particularly in sports content. He's renowned for his work with high-profile clients like TNT Sport, UFC, Cage Warriors, and the Future Group Company. Today, we'll delve into his journey in the combat sports world, exploring how his unique approach to storytelling and content creation has made a significant impact in the industry. Excited to chat with you today, Curtis. Thanks for being here. How are you and where are you joining from today?
I'm awesome. Thank you very much for having me. I am back home in the west country of England, back in my parents' house now after a little bit of traveling. So back to see my family for Christmas.
A little bit of traveling is a light way to put it. I mean, you've been all over the world. I know you were just in Vegas. Unfortunately, you didn't get the most out of that trip, but I'm sure there's some greater things coming in 2024. I only recently started following your content, or at least, unbeknownst to me, I'd obviously been following it for a long time, not knowing it was you behind it. But I'm just curious, how did you start creating content, and what led you into the combat sports world and all these top athletes and promotions that you've collaborated with?
Yeah. So I began. I picked up a camera when I was like maybe 12, 13 years old. I was one of the generation of kids that would watch people on YouTube and kind of see that they were actually creating businesses and creating kind of a life for themselves on YouTube. And that kind of inspired me to want to do that myself. I began making football YouTube videos and tried to grow a YouTube channel to then try and have that as a career. But obviously that's kind of like a more of a route into filmmaking for me than anything else. Um, I I began watching MMA through the rise of Conor McGregor. I was 2015, so I was 15 years old as McGregor kind of made his rise, and I got very invested into the sport. And at the same time, I was going through school, going through college, learning filmmaking, and I eventually went to university. Started studying filmmaking at university and tried to combine my love for MMA with my love for filmmaking, and it kind of worked out in a weird way. Um, I I basically began working with Cage Warriors sort of very early into my university days. I got the opportunity to work with them shooting post-fight interviews, and it was very lucky how that came about. I was I was basically a few weeks earlier. Uh, I went to a local MMA show, my first ever MMA show in Bristol, in England, and I just asked if I could film the event, put together a little edit for the guys at the event, and probably 2 weeks after that, something came up for me where Cage Warriors was in town and they wanted someone to film post-fight interviews. They reached out to my university to see if there was anyone available. I put my name forward, and because I'd done this amateur show maybe 2 weeks before, they asked me to come and film the post-fight interviews, and everything's kind of grown from there. Basically, I say it was quite lucky. Some other people say I managed to put myself in that position in the first place, but that's kind of how I got started, basically.
Yeah, I stopped believing in luck. And it's one of those things it sounds like you did position yourself, and more so maybe it was the path and you just took yourself down that way. And I know during your time at Cage Warriors, you collaborated with some of the top stars in the sport, Patty, and Jack Shore. I mean, just the amount of quality of athletes that have come through there is just through the roof. It's the reason why it's one of the top smaller promotions in the world. But it sounds like as a child of the technology age, you've done a pretty good job of getting yourself immersed in the content and creating impactful content. Do you have a process you look at when you're creating content, or the way you try to envision it?
I wouldn't say a process as such. I'd say I I try to tell whatever the story is that I'm working on. I try to tell that in the most truthful and honest way. I kind of do- to try and just shoot things as they're happening and put things out as they're happening. A lot of the work I did sort of as I finished university, I wanted to just make documentaries on like athletes or people of interest in a way that was kind of more accessible than traditional filmmaking, where it takes a long time to go through the process of shooting, editing, even the pre-production. And I felt like I had the ability to kind of come in with a camera or to shoot what was going on at the time and kind of edit edit it all very quickly afterwards, and just kind of give a more sort of honest and truthful perspective on whatever's going on at that time. And that's kind of what I try and do for Ian. That's what I was trying to do with some of the other people that I worked with, and that was also what I was trying to do at Cage Warriors, was get this stories across of the fighters just in a way that was as kind of honest as possible.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because that video that you just did for Ian leading up to the event, I mean, it's been circulated around my company, Combat Sports Group. Timex, who we work with as well, saw it, and we were all like, "Man, this is a quality piece of content." And it's pretty rare that you see something and you're like, "Whoo, this is really telling a story." So, kudos to you, and being able to deliver a very strong message and feeling. I mean, we were all hyped up from it, and so I think you're definitely delivering on the emotions at the time.
I was just gonna say, like, those kinds of things, they, for me, they're like more of like the fun side of creating, and just being able to just have fun with what, especially with what has been going on recently with kind of the topic of Ian online and everything. It's kind of more of a case of how can we just be creative, have fun with everything that's going on, and also just tell a story in a way that's different to what everyone else is doing, basically.
You collaborating with all these different organizations, and most recently traveling around the world with Ian and documenting his journey. How do you find yourself in consideration for these type of opportunities? Is there some secret sauce or any type of magic that you think is behind the scenes to help you position yourself that way?
I wouldn't say so. I would just say I feel like I've made the most of whatever opportunities I've managed to get. When I was working at Cage Warriors, I was working hard. I was working very hard and putting a lot of hours into the work that they needed me to do, but also just trying to go a little bit further in terms of like what I could provide. And I feel like in turn that has led to me getting more opportunities. I feel like a lot of the work I did in my final year of university. I did a piece on Mark Goddard. Um, I basically, it was during COVID, and everyone had to create their final year films, and we would go off in little groups and create our films, and kind of everyone had the idea to shoot their narrative films in person during COVID, which was very difficult because of all the restrictions. And I just thought, I think there's a way that we can do this a little bit differently. And I created this animated film about Mark and about what it's like to be an MMA referee. And that did go very well, and that got picked up by TNT Sports, well, what used to be called BT Sport. And it's kind of like those little things of just trying to really maximize what you're given, the opportunities that you're given, and just kind of give a little bit extra then kind of just gives you something back in a way. I think that's kind of the only way I could describe it, and I just say a little bit of luck as well. Feel like I have been very lucky in the opportunities that I have been given. So yeah.
I got to watch that Mark Goddard piece on your website, and I recently had seen the John Gooden piece that he did with him as well. I'm a big fan of Mark Goddard. He actually refereed a friend of mine's fight in Serbia back earlier this year, mid-year, and my friend just spoke so highly of him and his work. And so it seems like you're definitely taking this fresh approach to filmmaking. Can you just elaborate on that, like what makes your approach unique, or at least from your eyes?
I guess it's kind of a little bit similar to what I said before. It's kind of just being available and sort of able to move quickly to tell a story in a way that's kind of, I guess, I don't know, more relatable to people now. Like, there's so much equipment available. There's so much um, on offer that you can create with. For example, it's not hard to buy a camera that's, you know, a couple £100 that you can actually create something like very cool with. Even a phone, like if you have a phone, you can create something amazing. And it's kind of using these tools that are already available to really maximize like your creativity. And I guess that's what I would say is my perspective on like a fresh approach to filmmaking. Um, I feel like traditional filmmaking can be slow. It's a hard process, but to be able to get in and kind of work directly with the athletes or with people of interest, and to then quickly be able to provide content and um, share that with a wider audience is kind of how things should be nowadays, especially with, you know, how much we have, uh, you know, access to athletes' lives on social media. So I guess that's what my perspective would be on like a more fresh approach to filmmaking.
Yeah, I agree. It's all, it seems like all these days it's the speed and not just the quality, but the phone. I mean, the iPhones that can only take some better content than cameras just some 5 years ago is right. I think of like the Ninja, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the brand, but I have friends who are spending $15,000 on cameras. I know you can spend a lot more than that, but we're getting the same quality of pixels that you're getting in $15,000 camera than you are on an iPhone, which is funny to me. But definitely, I think the price that people are willing to pay for that type of equipment just kind of speaks to maybe some of the challenges that you see in filmmaking and content production. But what have been some of the most challenging and the most rewarding parts of creating content in combat sports from your point of view?
Um, Challenging. I don't. I would say the most challenging thing has probably been the most recent work with Ian, just purely because it's hard to create, or it's hard to even kind of operate with so much backlash, because you're just
Mm.
constantly thinking, well, if we put this out, what are people going to say next? Um, and that has been a learning process for me and for everyone within the team. Is like, well, people online are just going to say things no matter what, and we've kind of learned just through the last, I guess, month or so that it doesn't really matter what's going on online as long as we are telling the truth to what is going on within our team and what is going on for Ian, and that has kind of been a really nice way of coming out the other side of everything that's been going on online with Ian. I've really sort of loved working with, I mean, if we're keeping it specific to fighters, I've loved working with almost every single fighter that I've ever come across. And just kind of especially when I was at Cage Warriors, trying to help them build a platform, because at that level they don't have the biggest platform. They might have been coming in fairly fresh to media and to having a camera in their face, and if they are an interesting person, if they have an interesting story, or they're just an interesting fighter, then being able to give them that platform, um, and just try and help them is kind of what was really special to me, especially when I was sort of working with Cage Warriors a lot more.
For me, it always feels like a level of jealousy. I mean, I'll say that in some of the content that I was distributing for Timex with Ian, which, by the way, phenomenal. Everything you did, those photo shoots, all of that were really, really well done. But just the way some people react to it, I'm like, really? I had to even just like remove some people from my following just from their reactions, and I was like, it's you're buying into something that's not there, and you're letting the internet dictate yourself. So it's nice to hear that acceptance of, hey, we're just going to be us, we're going to be authentic. And I agree with you 100%. That's the best part of working with athletes in combat sports is there's usually very little room for inauthenticity, and somewhat people who are engaged like that on a regular basis typically just are real. It's nice being around real people and hearing how real people talk and how they act. And yeah, it's not always the most desirable and most marketable aspect of who they are, but it's good to hear that you're coming to that realization and moving your forward, because I feel like that's going to continue to propel your content as well. And I know you were just out in Las Vegas. You're back in UK. You've been in the Nordic countries. You've been in Brazil. Has there been a favorite place you've had as you've been traveling around the world this year, and any favorite location you've been in?
Um, I think it has to be. I think it has to be Brazil. Um, I think Brazil. Brazil is such a special place. It's it's just got a different energy, a very different energy. When I arrive, I'm like so happy to be there. The sun's out, but all the people are like are really just just I don't know. It's a very different culture there, and everybody is very welcoming, and always kind of just so happy to talk to you, to help you, to just welcome you into the country. Shooter Box as a gym was probably the best gym that I've been and worked in, just because of the people in there are so happy to see you every day, so appreciative of me, especially as someone who's coming into a gym with cameras. It's sometimes, especially at first, it's a like you have to warm up into it, and get to know the people a little bit, before you really feel like you can properly capture everything that's going on in the gym. And that's something that was never even like an issue in shooter box, because everyone was immediately so happy for you to be there, so happy that you're even there with cameras, because they understand how important it is to be documented, be online, be seen on social media. And when I say that, that doesn't change sort of how they are within the gym, whether I'm there or not. That's that they're going to be the same whether I'm in the gym with cameras, whether I'm in the gym without cameras. Brazil as a whole, the food is amazing. The people are amazing, and it's such a beautiful place as well. So it probably has to be Brazil. Saying that, this year was the first time that I'd been to Vegas, and this last trip was actually my third trip to Vegas. And I feel like there's a certain feeling, now when I go to Vegas, and I feel like I'm ready to watch some fights, and to be part of the fight week, um, feeling. So I also feel like Vegas is a very special place.
Yeah, it is. I've never only recently have been a fan of Vegas. I used to go there a lot for work and sales conferences, and it was always like my soul was slowly being sucked out of me at these events. But I've come to appreciate it more for what it is, and it is like a really special place where people from all around the world are kind of convoluting and getting together for better or for worse. And it's interesting that fact you were just talking about the telling of the story at the gyms, because not everyone or not everyone, not all gyms are cool to have camera people there, but in this day and age it's about the content, about the storytelling, and you're doing a really amazing job of doing that. What tips would you give to content creators who are looking to work with the level of talent that you're collaborating with?
Mm. It's hard almost because I feel like I was given the platform to be able to get to know like the fighters and the talent that I have. And I never really went and kind of seeked it out as such. So um, that kind of fell into my lap, I feel. But I would say just to kind of if you ever have the opportunity to be around any of these guys to kind of just get to know them outside of filming them, get to know them and get to know what they're like as a person. I feel like I've worked with Ian way before he was in the UFC, and I feel like I know him very well. I feel like I understand all the parts of his day that he enjoys, the parts of his day that he doesn't enjoy, which then means that I know kind of when can I film him, when should I not be filming him, what what points of the day are uh, more important for him to be on his own or just with the family and away from cameras, because I'm filming him pretty much every day, a lot of the day, and so I feel like it's just important to know the people you're working with, know them, yeah, as best as you can, and then yeah, just that will help in terms of getting all of the content that you want from them, because you know them better than most people, and I think that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a level of intimacy that speaks from your content, and for me, I always kind of hark back to Will Harris from Anatomy of a Fighter, who pulling back that curtain for combat sports athletes is hard. There's a lot of people asking things from them. There's a lot of people that want things from them, particularly at like the higher levels of the sport. I think of like a Khabib, an Islam, Kamaru Usman, like those type of people that Will has been able to kind of show the other side of the story, right? The more intimate, like going to Dagestan, those journeys that the audience is being taken on are special. I would say that about you as well, and you've definitely in a short time become one of my favorite content creators out there. Are there, I've had a chance to watch your reels from last year and your highlight reel. I can only imagine what this year's is going to look like. But looking forward to 2024, are there any projects that you have coming up that the audience should keep an eye out for, or anything special that you want to mention?
I mean, look, this year I feel like 2024 is gonna be a big year for Ian, and I feel like whatever noise we may have made in the last fight camp and for what was supposed to be this last fight of the year, I can only imagine that's going to get bigger. Um, we're going to have as much fun with it as we possibly can. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to keep creating what we want to create, and Ian's coming for the belt, and that's going to be a fun ride, which I should be on board with. So for now, that's what I've got my eyes set on for the next year. There are a few projects that I would like to do outside of outside of MMA. I constantly want to work with different people in different sports and do other things which I haven't actually actively promoted, that I haven't put out online. So yeah, 2024 is going to be interesting. At the moment, full focus is on Ian. I know his fight just got announced for, I believe, actually Anaheim instead of Miami. So full focus will be on February, and then beyond, to the top five, and top top five of the division. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a wild ride, I'm sure. So that's what my full focus is on.
Well, looking forward to see that documenting, and really, I don't say this is not hyperbole to say that. Really looking forward to seeing what you're doing next. This is actually one of the few videos where I'm recording just the content you've delivered, where this is the type of thing I'll forward to a whole bunch of people, particularly me as a content creator myself, looking to kind of help other people. And that's why I do this, is like, really, there's so much noise out there, and so little information of how people can kind of grow within this industry and as content creators and artists themselves. So really excited that you've taken the time to do this. I think a lot of people are going to get value out of this, and can't wait to see what you do next, mate.
Thank you very much. This is my first ever time speaking to anyone about my what I do. So this is the first time on a podcast. This is my first time answering questions about what I do. So I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully it helps me get a little bit better in terms of answering these kind of questions, and helping other people kind of figure out what I do, and how they can do the same.
Yeah, well, you crushed it, and yeah, I know it's always hard for the people behind the camera to be in front of it. So once
Yeah.
again, thanks for doing it, and looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.